Why bother with church? I think that's a great question, and I can think straight away of a couple of reasons why you might ask it. It might be because you think I'll be the odd one out. I won't have anything in common with those churchy types. Or it might be because you think you'd be judged, that other people would look down on you because of your history or background or something like that. Well, on that first one of feeling like the odd one out, the Bible says incredibly that when we put our trust in Jesus, we become part of a new family. We're adopted into God's family. And that means that Jesus Christ himself becomes our brother, and God becomes our heavenly, loving, perfect Father. And that means that we've got a bond between us that is far more powerful and deep than anything that we could ever imagine. And churches are therefore groups of people who, even though they might be different from one another on the surface, have that great, great bond between them. And so what you find in churches that understand this is groups of people that want to be like a family, want to love one another and go the extra mile for one another. So whether you've had a good week at work or a bad week, you need someone to put an arm on your shoulder, you need someone to go out for a coffee with or a drink and just get something off your chest, someone just to cook you a meal because you're feeling exhausted. Well, church communities are places where people want to go the extra mile and love one another as families. Now look, I know that it's not always like this, and just like in blood families, it can be hard, it can be tough, and sometimes we get it wrong. But even so, there is this incredible bond between people who put their trust in Jesus that means we are part of one incredible family. What about that second thing about feeling judged? Well, Jesus said he didn't come for those who had their life sorted, but for people who realised that they didn't have their life sorted, that they needed his help to live for them. Sometimes I think we can think of church a bit like an exclusive club, where the people on the inside look down on the people on the outside. But Jesus said that we should look at things in a completely different way. He said that church was more like a spiritual hospital. He even says these words in Mark's Gospel. He says, "The healthy don't need a doctor, but the sick. I've not come to call the righteous, those who think they've got their life sorted, but sinners, those who realise that they haven't got their life sorted." You see, what Jesus was saying was, Christians are people who realise that they need a spiritual doctor. In Bible language, we've turned our backs on God and we're spiritually sick. And yet God has come down to earth in the person of Jesus Christ as the ultimate spiritual doctor to save us and to help us to change. And if we understand that, well, then we won't look down on others because we'll realise that we're sick people and we need God's help just like everyone else does. We don't always get this right as churches, and you may be someone who feels burnt or hurt by your own church experience. But I can say from my personal experience that I've been in churches where people have understood these kinds of truths about Jesus. They've understood putting Jesus and his teaching first, that we're to be communities that are like families, that love one another, to be communities that recognise that we're spiritually sick. And when I've been involved in churches like that, it's been an incredible thing. It's been a place where people want to love one another, don't want to stand in judgment on one another, and want to admit their mistakes. And as hard as it is, as difficult as it is, they're incredible places to be part of.